I'll begin with a roll call. Commissioner Archibald is absent. Commissioner Jones?
Here.
Commissioner Santoro?
Here.
Commissioner Hogan?
Here.
Commissioner Champagne? Here. Commissioner Scullen?
Here.
Commissioner Willett is here. If we could stand. No, I want to do a moment of silence and pledge of allegiance first and then go into executive session. I'd like to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and in our moment of silence, if we could remember Lieutenant Richard Jenks from Pasco Fire, who was a line-of-duty death. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Whenever we have line-of-duty deaths, it's always a reminder that firefighting is a dangerous business. So I'm sorry for his family, and I'm sorry for the community's loss. At this point in time, we need to go into executive session. So if the folks who are here could leave the room, please, and we will take over. Can I have a motion? Motion is made by Commissioner Champagne. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Santoro. All in favor of going into executive session, say aye.
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 Opposed? Passes 6-0.
If you have any questions for Mr. Finley, 2 more quarters?
Okay.
We're in the middle of 3.
I'd like to have a motion from the committee to move to open meetings now?
Well,
Move out of, adjourn from executive session. I know we just did it, we're going to do it again. Can I have a motion on, can I have a motion, please, to adjourn? By Commissioner Hogan. Second by Commissioner Santoro. All in favor of moving from executive session, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Passes 6-0.
Can I just ask, who moved to go into executive session?
That was
It was the same.
Commissioner Champagne.
And
Commissioner Santoro seconded.
Thank you.
That's the one thing I can keep track of. All right, general announcements, any? Commissioner Santoro.
Microphone. Mike.
Turn your microphone on.
Something I don't do very often to the solicitor. For a comment I made months ago, the charter, from reading Robert's Rules of Order, which I bought for everybody, the charter is actually made by the enabling legislation from the state, and I was pretty rude about saying she was wrong and I was right, and I'll be just as rude as saying rude saying she was wrong and I was right, and she was right and I was wrong. So now it's on the record that I was obnoxiously wrong and she was entirely correct.
Thank you, Commissioner Santoro. Any other general announcements?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Scullen.
I would request at our March meeting that we have an agenda item and have the auditors present. I have some questions on page 38 of the post-employment benefits.
Which page?
38 of the audit, which is basically the Cumberland Hill retiree health care.
Okay.
And my basis for having them here is just an explanation of how they work these numbers and how they work this plan, because the number doesn't seem far off from what I think it should be. And if we have a copy of, I don't know if there's a written copy of this plan that we could all have at the next meeting with the auditor. And because I'm looking at, we could probably not have to do the actuarial study if this number is accurate. This will suffice to cover that number.
Okay.
So the actuarial, so that budget item of 10,000 would go away because we can just settle it with this page here.
Okay.
Just wanted discussion with the auditor, how they
Can we make that
work
happen?
this.
I mean, yeah, we can call them.
Call them
and
and
I don't
see.
know, between me and the chief, we'll,
Yeah, just.
Okay.
No, I think it's a good idea also, because when I read this myself, there's a page in here about how much our equipment is worth. I can't find the page right now, but there's one of the pages that denotes what the vehicles are worth, the chief's vehicle, the engine companies, all the assets and equity, and the ladder trucks and depreciations, and here it is, right here, page 23. And I can't understand which column means what. It says the book value of, let's see, I don't know, a current vehicle. The pumper is $4,000.
All right, so we could ask those
Exactly.
questions. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. So make a note of that, too.
That'd be great.
So when somebody contacts them, they can make the suggestion to be prepared to discuss information on page 23, and then information on page 36.
38, right?
38.
Page 23, the last column.
Column. The book value.
Yeah,
It's really not.
this isn't not on the agenda.
Yeah.
We can talk about it offline.
It's the same as the draft. Just the draft has been removed and submitted to the Auditor General. But if there's other questions you have, I'm sure the auditors would be much better prepared if they knew ahead of time what pages and what questions you had. So if you could get them to me, at least a week before the meeting, so that I could forward them to the auditors so that they could be prepared, you'd probably be more comfortable with the answers. We're not the only account they have, so sometimes it gets a little convoluted with the different municipalities when they come in and try to answer off the cuff. So to get factual answers where they can refer to their notes in the office would probably be more beneficial for all of us.
Okay. Moving on, because of a agenda issue, we are eliminating these. We need to have a second meeting and set a second meeting date. I'm proposing March 6th, Tuesday, March 6th at the Hayden Center.
Well, so Art is available. Just because of equipment issues, it's difficult for him to go to the library, so I'm just going to put that out there.
We could meet on
However,
Thursday.
yeah, the 6th chamber, Chambers is not available. Chambers is available on the 8th. You'd have to go to the Hayden Center, which, again, he'll do it, but it's much more difficult for him to do a library meeting.
All right, then, March 8th. Are people available for March 8th?
What day of
I
the
know
week
you will be. Thursday.
is Thursday?
You'll be away.
What time?
7.
But do you know if Commissioner Ashenville will be
I
here?
don't know.
You'd have a quorum.
And the purposes for the,
For the corrected agenda, corrected agenda.
corrected agenda?
Corrected agenda.
Okay.
All right? Okay, March 8th it is. I'm sorry, you'll miss it.
March 8th, 7 p.m.
Okay, let's move down to, under new business, number C, discussion of potential bond referendum to provide financing for Station 2 replacement and possible action. Pleasure of the board. Conversation.
You on? Did we do the consent agenda? Did we do consent agenda?
There's no items on consent.
The approval of the minutes.
Those are the wrong ones. There was a problem with the agenda.
Okay.
There's a problem with the agenda, so
Oh,
on
that's
March
why.
8th, we will have the correct
Oh, I
agenda
see.
for the rest of the meeting.
All right. Communication.
I'm sorry?
Motion to table.
Motion to table
Wait, what are we tabling? The bond referendum?
the bond referendum?
Yes.
You have to ask for a second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
No discussion.
No discussion.
Just a,
All right. All in favor of tabling the discussion?
Aye.
Aye.
well, not opposed.
Opposed? No.
No.
I'll take a roll call. Commissioner Jones?
No.
Commissioner Santoro?
No.
Commissioner Hogan?
Yes.
Commissioner Champagne?
No.
Commissioner Scullin?
Yes.
Commissioner Willett says no. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Motion fails, 4-3. The reason I voted no is I think that we need to move fairly quickly on this, and if we delay discussion, I think we'll lose our time. Was it the intent to delay the discussion until the next meeting?
Quite frankly, I don't think it's a discussion that should even be brought up. You know, you're looking at, we are mandated by the state to go to 4% tax increases from here into eternity. A building bond would add 3 to 4% to the tax rate every year. So you're looking 7, 8% tax increases for how many years? That's not in the best interest of the taxpayers at the rate we're going.
This is a bond referendum, Jim? This is a bond referendum, not a tax rate? And I understand you're saying it's a tax rate.
You have to pay the bond every year.
Exactly. I understand what you're saying. This is addition to the tax rate increase per year. Excuse me? Which is added to the tax rate per year for many years. Were you present for the tour of the building?
I was not.
You were not? Okay. Well, if you want to stop by sometime, I'm sure the captains or the deputies would be sure to walk you through and show it. I volunteered there when I was 36 years ago, when the building was built to last, what year, Chief, was that building built?
Somewhere around 1968 is the best we can come up with.
68. So it is 50 years old. It was built to last, how many years? 30 years? If you want to go for a tour and take a look what the men
Do
do.
you think the taxpayers of this town are
I'm not done yet,
gonna
Jim.
say they're gonna pay 8% a year forever in tax increases?
Jim, I'm not done yet, sir. Sorry. So,
I don't care about the tour of the building. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm
don't
talking
care-
about the tax rate increases.
what I care about is the safety of our firefighters, and I care about the safety of the men working in our building when they have to respond to a fire.
And if that building becomes condemned, then we will make alternate arrangements.
Like,
Other places have had fire stations closed. In Pawtucket, they closed one of their main stations. And they moved the trucks to other stations if necessary, and that's what they've done.
we don't have 10 stations sitting open that are vacated. We have 4 buildings that can house certain vehicles. That building has, what, a foot and a half, whatever it is, 2 feet in the back of that ladder truck that barely fits in, okay? You know, we
Well,
have...
in the event of an emergency, we can make do with anything. And I'm
I
sure
think-
Station 1 can handle the ladder truck.
I think we're pretty close to an emergency. If Station 1 puts a ladder truck in and you live on Reservoir Road, are you happy with that?
What's the difference from Ashton to Station 1? It's not that big.
It's about a 5-minute difference in response time.
And don't you think mutual aid's gonna be called in?
You know, the chief decides where the apparatus are deployed. What I'm worried about is if that building collapses during a storm, if it's not safe for the firefighters,
Well, let's have a structural engineer determine it unsafe, so we'll make a decision. Just to say we want a new building because we want one.
Listen,
If it's unsafe, it's unsafe. I haven't heard that used yet.
I don't want a new building. We need a new building.
So I'm wondering if it would really be a 3 to 4% increase.
Well, that was going to be
in the
my question.
bond.
That was going to be my question is,
I thought
think,
it was only going to be like $22 a year. Is
right,
that-
I think it needs to be investigated by the chief and Mr. Finley to find out what the potential cost is going to be for a 20-year bond.
15 to 20 years.
I heard about 300,
Increase on.
Well, what you heard...
350 a year.
We can hear it on the street corner. Let's talk to
No,
the bank.
because I've been here, Ron, not in Florida like you've been for the last 6 months. So I really
All
don't
right,
appreciate
thank you.
your attitude that you
It's none of your
walk in here, you
business.
attacked Mr.
Excuse me.
Santoro
I have to do
earlier
this.
because
All right.
he didn't forward you information to your Florida address.
It's none of your business.
It is, because you're neglecting your duties.
All right.
I haven't neglected
All
my
right,
duties.
we can't
Number
have
one,
this.
and I don't care about your part-time job in Pawtucket either. And I don't care about the city of Pawtucket.
Gentlemen,
Good.
I think Kelly has pointed out that it would be...
Have another drink.
I don't think I will.
All right, that's enough.
That was uncalled for.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Ms. Chairman.
I think it would be an 8 to 10 cent increase on the tax rate.
For just, for the bond.
For the bond.
The debt service,
The debt service,
8 to 10 cents.
8 to 10 cents.
What percent is that?
Well, it's different every year, but it's going to be, but that does not include any other tax increase. That's just for the debt service,
Right.
just to be clear, okay.
So I don't think that's 3 to 4%.
I mean, right now, I can try to do math.
I think sitting here trying to jump around with numbers is useless. It could be higher, it could be lower. Let's find out from the financial...
We have. So the numbers I'm giving you
We-
are from a financial advisor.
We had this at the round table, this all
Right,
these
so I'm
facts came
just-
out, and Solicitor Morris supplied us with a sample of 20 communities of similar financial or residential,
Yes.
and we were like in the lower third, I believe, or
For debt
for
service.
debt service.
Correct. I don't have that with me tonight, but
I thought I...
Yeah.
It's estimated that a $3.1 million bond issue would cost taxpayers about $250,000 to $300,000 annually for 15 to 20 years. That would be an 8 to 10 cent increase on the tax rate.
we're reading those from the minutes of the meeting, of the roundtable discussion.
I'm trying to look for more information.
And while I agree, there's never a good time to add on a new building, but there's a point in time when you've got to pull the trigger and say, when's it
Well,
gonna-
once
when-
again, it's kicking the can down the road. So we're not gonna address the problem and have a plan of next year or the year after to put a new building up. Then the cost just goes up and up and up.
Well, the cost goes up and the needs of the building are greater. Any further discussion?
Well, we do know the building is in tough shape. We know the firefighters complained about it. I know I was in there 2 years ago. There were ice dams and water running from the ceiling, and you couldn't open the side door, if I believe. The electric meter was full of ice, and we went down, I remember Captain Fogarty showing me that. It's a potential hazard. The building wasn't made to be there for 50 years. It was a temporary measure. Unfortunately, nobody planned it out, and we're trying to do it, and people are objecting to it. Now, supposedly, I don't take a lot of what people say, but there was an article in the paper in the Valley Breeze about the building, and there were really no comments
If you want to.
from anybody in town about not building a building there. of replacing that building. And that was only a few weeks ago, right, Chief? When I appeared in the Valley Breeze. And those comments there...
Weeks ago, yeah. About 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, and there was no comments. People weren't objecting to the building. Nobody was calling the chief and yelling and screaming at him.
I'd like to ask the public if they would like to step forward and put their 2 cents in, if anybody wants to do that regarding this issue.
Good evening. Jeffrey McCabe, 1877 Diamond Hill Road. As you know, I am an employee of the district. I will speak tonight as a resident. From what we've been told, and I believe your executive session was about tonight, we're staring down receivership. To look into a new building right now it's absurd. It's crazy. That building's not going anywhere. It's not going to blow down. The front driveway's not going to fall in. The firefighters didn't put the floor up. It was done by a professional company, Century Drywall. I just did quick math. It looks like about $250,000 a year for a loan, 20-year loan. You don't have that money. You have no savings, to the best of my ability, of my knowledge. You have zero savings. Right now, you are the equivalent of living on a third-floor tenement, and you want to build a new house up behind the reservoir on 5 acres. It's my suggestion that you plan, maybe a 5-year plan, 7-year plan. I know that in the budget, they put about $100,000 towards a new building. Maybe up that as the budget allows, and get a savings account for a new building, for a down payment. If the fire district was a person, I really wouldn't be that worried about that, because if you went to a bank and wanted to build a new house with no money down and negative cash flow, they'd laugh you out of the building. What scares me is your taxing ability. They might just give you the loan.
I couldn't hear you. What'd you say?
Your taxing
Put
ability.
the microphone on, sir?
It's on.
Is it on?
I believe it is.
Yeah.
We're taxing the building?
Your taxing ability.
Taxing ability?
When you have the ability to raise taxes, generally, they're more favorable to giving you money. Sometimes money you can't afford.
You mean a
We've seen it throughout the
lender?
state. Excuse me?
A lender, you mean?
A lender, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Jeff, I think you're right. We're not saying we want to build a building tomorrow or in the next year. Is to plan for it now, find out what the cost is going to be, what needs to be done. We're not talking about building a building, breaking ground next month. We're talking about planning for a new building in the next few years, or maybe take 3 years, maybe take 5 years.
I'm not hearing planning, I'm hearing
Well-
bond referendum. That's not planning.
Well, we still have to research what the bond referendum is going to be, what's it going to take, what is the process, and have a plan in place. Right now, there's no plan in place right now.
The fire district needs research and they need a plan.
That's what I'm saying.
We do
And
not,
that-
we do
and
not and
that's-
cannot have a bond referendum in November.
Well, they're saying bond referendum, but we also incorporated in that research is also what the bond referendum is going to cost us. That's all part of the package. Right now, we have nothing. We're actually guessing what a building is going to cost. We're just grabbing numbers out of the air.
Which is further evidence that we're not ready to do this yet.
That's what I'm saying. I don't disagree with you. But to table the whole issue and not plan for the future to replace that building needs to be replaced in the near future. We need to plan for it. Just like when you plan to buy a new car. You don't buy one tomorrow. You plan for it.
Exactly.
And we need to do the same thing.
And you should have savings to buy a
Right,
new.
we have to, but...
You should not buy a
but
car,
we
a house,
can't-
or anything with no money down.
We can't just ignore the whole situation.
We have no money down.
Right,
Sir,
but I'm saying
sir,
right
Dick-
now, we're not putting any money down right now.
Sir, to address your savings question, if you have a packet, I'm not sure if you have, I can give you my page if you like. We have a Navigant savings account with $799,000, $837 in it.
And that's free cash.
It's a money market account.
Commissioner Santoro, before you go too far on that, that may be part of the operating fund that they just keep over there till they move it to the general fund. We don't have that kind of money just laying around.
No, we don't.
It's, no, we have, what I'm trying to correct is that you keep saying we have no money, no money, no money, no money. We do have $1.8 million in what's called semi-liquid assets. I'm not an expert in finance, but there are operating assets, operating money.
My jaw is slack.
I know it is. So the public records or access, you can go on to the website.
I review them all, and I'm
Okay,
pretty
great.
good at it.
Okay, well, if you look down,
Can the chairwoman or anybody else on the board, is Mr. Santoro correct?
We have a,
Do you have 700 and change free cash?
I don't think we do.
it's
No,
not,
I
it's not
don't think
free.
so.
It's in a money market account.
But
You
it's gonna-
wouldn't have
well,
spent
it's
an
gonna be
hour in
used for
executive
payroll
session
over the
if you
next 6
did.
months.
What's that?
It's gonna be used into the payroll and other operating expenses. Well, there's only
No, no.
$400,000 in operating right now.
But the money market account is something that, if you could convert that, you take a penalty, and that money can be
And I'm
used.
telling you, that's just,
It's not
That's-
extra money. It's earmarked. It's earmarked.
That's earmark money.
that's not a savings account.
Chief,
That's part of our
what, you should
operating
ask
fund.
the chief, that's part of your operating money, right? Operating fund, what,
The money market is part of the operating fund.
Right, money gets transferred.
It's put in the money market as the gross amount of taxes come in at the beginning of the year, the people that pay all 4 quarters, it goes in because it garners a little bit of interest. We transfer it out of the money market as we need it in operations.
thank you.
And it's part of a savings account.
You have no money. If you don't know it, I'm telling you that.
Okay.
You have no savings.
Okay.
I understand if changes don't happen, receivership could. We're in dire
Did you
straits.
just say receivership good?
Could.
Oh.
We're in dire straits. A new building should be planned for and
Did
saved
you
for.
attend the meeting we had on the 27th?
The round table?
Yeah,
Yes, I did.
okay.
Yes, I did.
And, did you have any questions that day? Any comments? Because,
I worked for 15 years in that building. I know that building like the back of my hand.
okay.
I don't agree with everything that was portrayed that day. The building will not blow down. The front driveway will not fall over or fall in. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Jeff.
It should be a plan. There should be savings. It should be a 5-year plan, not a 6-month plan. Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
time.
Good evening, Greg DeComitis, 44 DeSoto Street. I haven't been here in a while, as most of you will know. But now I'm back. And things haven't changed on this board as we excuse me?
Greg.
Sorry. I call it as I see it, and you know that. 2 things. For once, I agree with Jimmy. You should hold off on it and plan it as much as you can. Because I am telling you right now, when us taxpayers find out that we don't have any money, and we're looking at possible receivership, like Central Coventry, there is no way that we're going to have a new station. I believe a new station. I've been to that station. It's a dump. And if it's in that bad of a shape that there is an emergency situation, like you said, it's at the chief's discretion to move trucks. Move the trucks out of there. I know those guys won't be happy with it. I've been to that station, and no, I didn't take the tours that you guys did, but I've seen those stations. I'm not happy with it. And going back and beating a dead horse, there was a plan a bunch of years ago by a former mayor that he said he wanted his little triangle, 3 stations. I stood at this podium numerous times and told anybody that wanted to listen that I will fight that tooth and nail. Valley Falls is first due to my house. If you guys know what that means, they would show up first before Cumberland. I live in the Cumberland district. I see those guys every day. I hear them from my house every day. I know where they're going. And if that station wasn't there, I know what the response times were. And, Ms. Chairwoman, I know we've had this discussion before about response times and manpower. And from what I'm hearing, this district doesn't look as rosy as it was when we started the merger. We got problems. And I really don't think, and it might be a play on terms, like Mr. Champagne said, to plan out the bond, but the way it says on the email and the way it says on the agenda, it's a bond referendum. Discussion of a bond referendum. It says nothing to do about what a tax rate might be, what the bond rates might be, how much this station's going to cost. That's got to be planned. I'm no genius, but it doesn't take, if what Mr. McCabe said is true, and there's no money, 4% max every year, like we all know, taxpayers are going to start taking a hard look. And they might not be as generous as a lot of people are. It could be wrong, but there's not a soul in this town that would ever do anything against the fire department or police department. But when it comes to spending money, and we all know how times are, it might be a little difficult. I really suggest that this board plans it accordingly and pays attention to the finances. That's all I got.
Thank you, Greg.
Have a nice night.
Yes.
I just want to make one comment, and I take no position on this, but I do want the public to understand that the chief and I have met with bond counsel, and we reported all of this at the roundtable discussion, how much it's going to cost, how much in soft costs, how much the tax rate would go up. I just want to be clear that, again, I'm not advocating, I'm not taking a position, but I want the public to understand that we do have numbers. The chief talked about how big the station should be, how he wanted it to be 9,000 square feet, now it's got to be 6,000 square feet. And again, because I'm not advocating, but I just want the public to understand that we do have the numbers. Whether this commission wants to move forward with a bond referendum is up to them, but we spent a couple hours one Saturday morning with all of this information. We've met with a financial advisor, we've met with bond counsel, we've met with the architects. So I just want to make the record clear. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further discussion amongst the board?
So the referendum would only state that the residents of Cumberland would say yes or no to it, correct?
It would, but the reason why it's important to discuss this tonight is that if you wanted to move forward, I have to call the bond counsel. They're going to start charging us money. They're going to have to provide a very complicated resolution that's, appropriate to go on the ballot in November. So if you decide to move forward tonight, it's going to start costing the soft cost money, which was explained at the roundtable discussion.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, then a question, where would that soft cost money come from?
You want me to explain?
Obviously, we looked at some numbers earlier, and there is no soft money left.
So, it can be rolled into the bond amount, and it can be, I mean, there is some money in the bond, the budget that the chief was not advocating touching.
Oh, that $300?
Well, no, but,
Sorry.
like the station building fund, he didn't say to touch. But you can do a couple of different things. You could roll it into the bond. You could take it out of the station building fund, which you have about 90,000 in. Those are the options.
No, most of that was coming out of that list.
How much is soft costs?
But this is by my memory, but it's about $40,000 to $60,000. But that includes architecturals, things like that. Going through the bond process, start to finish, not just getting it on the referendum. It's like $40,000.
When is this all due?
Well, it's going to come in, it'll come in stages. The writing a resolution is not going to be 40,000. It's going to be something, I don't know. It's going to, like 5,000.
The timing of when they want that $50,000 check. They want
It's going to be in stages.
They want it before July 1st or after July 1st?
It's not, some of it's going to be before July 1st.
Any further discussion?
So that soft money, to draw it up, I understand that, but to draw up the resolution
Yeah.
legally. So if that fails at vote in, was it November?
Yeah.
How far are we into it? In other words, does some of those soft costs kick in after approval of the resolution?
These are all good questions. If you were interested in moving forward, I could ask those questions. And we're meeting again next week. I could get more information on that. If you want to put it back on for discussion on March 8th, that's just a suggestion. Because I don't know exactly, I'm talking total soft costs. They're going to come in stages.
I think we need more discussion before we go to a vote on
You're
this.
not, Mike's not on.
I'm sorry. I think we need more discussion on this before we go to a vote on this one.
All right.
I don't think we're ready yet, you know. I have some reservations, you know. Deputy McCabe, I respect your opinions tremendously. I forget your name, sir. I respect your opinions as well tremendously. And, you know, you raise good points, but I do think that that building needs to be replaced. And this, I was not expecting the $50,000 expenditure during this budget season as well.
I didn't say that.
You said before July 1st.
No, I did not. I said it's going to come in stages, and it won't all be
Yeah.
before July 1st.
Yeah.
And I will get more specific information by next week's meeting.
Yeah, if we could, yes, that's what I'm saying. So I think we need more discussion. If you can come back with us with some way to roll it over into next year's budget, or just kicking the can down the road again, or into the bond itself, then that would make a little more sense. I could stomach a little better than, you know, adding it on to an already stressed budget that we're dealing with right now, at this minute, as Mr. McCabe mentioned so eloquently. But I think we need more time to talk about this.
But it'd be interesting to have something on the agenda to see what the taxpayers feel.
Yeah,
We're sitting here making assumptions, they're gonna be upset. If we had some numbers and say this is what the cost would be, not to exceed whatever, and let the taxpayers, the taxpayers have to prove it anyway. Bond referendum, it's gotta go on the ballot
In November.
in November, and they could say no. And that's the end of the story.
That's the end of the story.
It's all done. They could say yes, we could have a number that says not to exceed X number of thousands of dollars, or whatever it may be.
So the proposal is for a $3.1 million bond, right, chief?
Right.
That's what the proposal is.
Can't we just put that on the agenda, on the ballot and see what the taxpayers say?
You can, but it's going to cost some money to get it on the ballot. Once you get involved in hiring bond counsel, they have to actually do the resolution and all
At
that.
some point, if we don't do it this year, then we're gonna do it next year. If we don't do it next year, we're gonna do it the year after.
If you don't do it this year, I mean, you'd have to have a special election in next year.
Well, next year, I mean, we should be prepared to put on the ballot the next
There's not going
election.
to be an election, a town election, so you'd be doing a special election.
Be off
It's every 2 years.
Right, so next election, we put it on the ballot. And let the taxpayers tell us what they want.
2020?
Yeah, whatever the next election is.
All right, T?
I think it's hard for us to keep on going and sitting here and arguing among ourselves when we don't know what the feeling of the taxpayers are. We have no idea what the taxpayers,
That's why you find out.
and that's the only way you're gonna find out, if they say yes on the bond and no on the bond. We have to go to a bond regardless, according to our charter. We have to go to the taxpayers, regardless, according to our charter. We can't sign for $3 million without the taxpayers' approval.
So at the roundtable discussion, we talked about those options. Well, taxpayer input would be for a bond, but there's other options that would be more costly and would not involve taxpayer input, and those are master leases and other loans.
Well, I think we need to put it out to taxpayers and let them vote on them, if they want to build their bond money.
So the question was...
No different than what they do for a school, to build a school or remodel the school or whatnot. The town puts it on the ballot.
So the question, Ron, is, when does that $50,000 in soft money come before?
I don't know. I'm not the company that's going to write it. You got to find out from.
We are. We have to decide when.
Madam Chair, just a quick, I think we're putting the cart before the horse. We're up here arguing about $3.1 million, bonding it out, whatever the case may be. We don't even have our ducks in a row yet. You're gonna go in and you're gonna ask the taxpayers to fund this building. And like the gentleman said, we have no money. We're broke. That's like going out and buying a brand new Corvette and you don't even have a job. Just my opinion. I think they do need a building, but we need to do our due diligence and get this thing straightened out once and for all and get all our ducks in a row before we start spending the taxpayers' money. This is crazy to even talk about it. We're borrowing from Peter to pay Paul now just to make ends meet, and you want to go bond $3 million. It's crazy. It's not a way to run a business. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. I would suggest we continue this discussion at the next meeting. Okay?
You don't need a motion.
I don't need a motion. All right, we also have a request from Commissioner Santoro to discuss quarterly payments. Commissioner Santoro?
Yeah, so I was going through trying to figure out since we had the first executive session with the local, I've been doing the reading for many guys. Microphone. Oh, yeah. Since we had the last meeting with the local, first meeting, so I've been doing some reading about our cash flow and what's maybe some reasons behind our cash flow problems. And I know Diane mentioned that one of our representatives, she was going to go and get a law passed that would make us have quarterly payments no matter what. But it appears that for the last 3 years in a row, and we've had yearly payments, and every year the bill comes in and gets paid. And somewhere in this paperwork I have that as of the January meeting, the February meeting, which we are right now, January 12th of every year for the last so many years, we've had between 89 and 91% receipts, which means that we have never had this kind of cash flow problem. We've never had, as you said, trying to buy a Corvette with no money in the bank. So I'd like to discuss amongst everyone, get their opinions on going back to the yearly payment schedule. And I know there's only one female. Ms. Ackerman is, I guess, the woman, the person who's going to propose going to the payments. When I got the packet, we had $3 million outstanding. We had 2 quarterly payments. Half came in and half was still pending, which seemed to make sense that we were getting, 2 quarters and 2 quarters left. Diane Stewart quoted a 98.5% collection rate. I think we're going on a 97% collection rate. I don't know what the current collection rate is with the quarterly, but at this point, as Mr. McCabe mentioned, we're running on money we don't have. And my personal feeling is that we don't have the money because we're running on money we're anticipating getting. And we're hoping, I can't find the stupid sheet, and we're hoping that people will keep making their quarterly payments. And I've spoken to a few people in town, and I've asked them, how do you feel about these quarterly tax payments? And they go, oh yeah, it's been sitting there since, since first of the year. It's just been, hanging around. I haven't gotten to it. And I'm like, oh geez, well maybe we should pay it because we could really use the money. And, here we are, it's July, and they're 2 quarters behind already. I said, didn't you get a letter in December saying you were going to go to tax sale? And they say, oh, there's another envelope just sitting there. I didn't even open that second envelope. So now we have people who just, and some of them pretty prompt, and so we have people who haven't paid their taxes for over 2 quarters already for the fire tax, which explains a lot of why we're having our budgetary problems with lack of revenue coming in. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, I don't know how the rest of the board feels, and I like to hear everyone's opinions. If they feel it's more convenient. I personally don't like the quarterly tax payments myself. I just pay mine all at once. I just get it, boom. Otherwise, I think Mr. Hogan mentioned that, it was under the bottom of the table, and his wife, he had to pay, and then I think that we go into the yearly payments, we get that large sum of money, we collect $6.9 million within a month. That $6.9 million or $7 million goes into an account, a savings account, like you mentioned, that gains interest over the year, which can be used. The interest on that full payment can be used towards other stuff during the year. I think once we have a new finance director, we can probably get more interest the numbers of use of the interest on the savings account in the bank. I anticipate Ms. Ackerman going before the Senate or the House.
It was Karen McCabe.
Oh, she's going.
Macbeth, Karen Macbeth, not...
Oh, she has a new last name too. New last name, but she's gone. So since Karen's gone, it probably won't happen, right? So anyways, regardless of if they do or don't, I think we need to go back to yearly payments, get the money in the bank, then the rank and file will know there's $7 million waiting for them to get paid and to subsidize our department. And the chief will know he has $7 million to use if a truck breaks or whatever needs to be done, as opposed to having a line item that says, anticipated income. The money's there. And for the 3 years before, 15, 16, 16, 17, we've had that. Now we don't. And the form is probably sitting on my couch at home. So can we, maybe,
I'll,
Mr. Champagne, you've been around the longest.
I agree with you. I was one of the commissioners that was against quarterly payments. It's not a big tax bill.
It's not what?
It's not a big tax bill for the majority of the people. But we were pushed into it by the senator, and she had already spoken to senators and representatives, and we were pushed into it. Now it's hard to unring the bell. That's a problem, you know? And I've had no problems before telling people, you know, they're driving a brand-new car, and they got a cell phone, and they got cable TV, and they got everything else, and the fire department's always on the bottom of the pile. Because those entities can just shut off the cable and the telephone. Or the town of Cumberland can shut the water bill off when they don't pay their water bill. We still have to run the fire department. But I agree with you, but on the other hand, it's really tough to unring the bell at this point. It's my opinion.
Why is it so hard?
Because there were a lot of nasty people that were upset that wanted quarterly payments. And what's happened here, what you just explained, is what I said 3 years ago was going to happen. That we would be chasing our tail, looking for money, because people just throw it on the desk, or they pay the first quarter, and it's all forgotten about it. Now, I don't know what the other board members feel. I mean, I don't oppose it. You're 100% right, but once again, the bell has been rung.
We created this monster ourselves.
No,
You know.
the taxpayers created the monster. They were in here, you weren't here, but they were here,
Yeah.
yelling and screaming and hollering.
They wanted
And-
quarterly payments.
The senator and the representatives were here, and they were, it was a pep rally is what it would turn out to be, I think, for lack of a better words. And we did it. We did it because the fire department in Cumberland Hill always accommodated those people who had a problem. If someone came in to see Diane and they had a problem, she'd put them on a schedule. But once they missed the schedule, all taxes are due in full. And it's just like now. All taxes, once you miss that first quarter, all taxes are due in full. Demand letters is sent out. But short of going to somebody's house and force them to write a check out, what do?
I think that if, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, do you want to talk first?
I was going to ask the chief, what would be the administrative costs if we had to revert back to yearly? Do you have any idea? Because we'd have to change everything.
No, I don't, off the top of my
Okay.
head. I don't think there's a big savings in the tax bills themselves. It's a nominal upgrade to go from just a single coupon to multiple coupons. But I could look that up and get some pricing from Visions to see what the savings would be. And that's basic, it's just the tax bill itself. The printing's going to be the same, the initial mailing's going to be the same. There might be less follow-up late notices if more people exercised paying in full, like the banks that have been set up by the taxpayers. If they're not given the option to pay quarterly, they would just remit one check. Those aren't the issues. The banks are pretty much on top of the quarterly payments. It's as Mr. Champagne indicated, people that put it down, because they were used to paying singularly on an annual bill, they just haven't got in the habit of making the first quarter and continuing on for the other quarters.
I think if we were the kind of, did Cumberland Hill have enough money in reserves where they could kind of take the hit and absorb it during the year? And did you have enough?
We sent out a bill once a year.
What I'm saying is, did you have enough money in the bank?
Well,
That you
we
could-
always, we had enough money in the bank.
Yeah,
Our shortages here today were derived from the past. And it's come down the ladder to us. I don't want to get into details. It came to light when we did the merge, but it's something that we have to live with, and we're trying to correct now of what happened in the past.
but what I'm saying now is, this group, like the town of Cumberland, talking about, Mr. Scullin mentioned before, they've got, $44 million they can reach into. We don't have $44 million. Cumberland Hill probably had a few $100,000 they could reach into. This district right now, we don't have this huge, buffer just to grab into, awaiting that $3 million of revenue to come in over the next 6 months. If we had that, then the quarterly payments would be convenient, and would be nice, and would be a good thing to have. Convenience. Until we get to that point 5 years from now, when we're a more mature district, I think we have to go with yearly payments to get to that point for maybe a 5-year period of time, and then we can have that buffer to get us over the hump.
But I just
I
want
know
to
it's gonna be hard.
understand, I understand all the research you've done, but this problem that we have now was handed to us.
Yes, but let's...
It was handed to us.
It was. Let's go forward.
And it was handed to us
Yep,
3 years ago.
yep.
And
Let's
we're
just-
trying to live with it now.
Let's move
And we're
forward.
trying to go forward with it.
Yep.
And it's not pretty, but I don't know, I mean, we were sending out notices constantly, delinquent notices, even on the yearly taxes. Diane was good. Diane stayed on top of it. She had a schedule, and she stayed to that schedule, sending out
Yeah.
the taxes. At one point in time, I used to call people and ask them if they had a problem.
I can tell you,
You know, it was almost like, I was a bill collector trying to help her out. But it's, it's what we predicted would happen. The people would pay the first quarter, and then it goes to the bottom of the pile, and all the other nice things in life come first, till they have a fire. And then the fire department and fire committee are loved to death. And that's what's happening. We're in the bottom of the pile. And I don't know, do we want to test the waters and end up having, and go back to an annual
yes,
and have the people fill up this place? And
Yes.
then we're going to have, I don't know if I want to do that at this point.
well, I'll
We
tell
lived
you
through
that
it.
Diane, looking at the numbers from 2016, January 16, she had 89.13% collection rate. She had $6.3 million in the account. 17, she had 86% collection. $6.1 million collected. Right now, we're at about 49.9%. Okay? So
It's a lot
Diane,
higher than that.
It's higher than that.
It's higher
well,
than that.
that's of today. They ran it again. I think it's 52% today. So, I didn't see the report that came out this morning, but as of like 2 days ago. So the point is that,
We have, the reason it's there is because we have quarterly tax
because the
payments.
quarterlies, yeah. So we're hoping that it stays at that consistent coming in. But we just can't reach into that 2.5 million we anticipate coming.
We don't have a cash flow problem, understand that. We are paying our bills.
No, I understand. I just think that if we had that upfront payment,
Well, yeah, you're looking at the fact that big pile of money, put it in the bank, collect interest.
yes,
That's what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
People are saying, small pile of money, pay you a little bit, I keep the rest in the bank, get my interest.
yes.
That's what people are thinking.
And and then what happens when you start sending out tax sale notices? Because we just passed the tax sale last month,
It's the
That-
same old story every year.
But-
They never get the bill, and this and that, and they, you know.
But now
I've
it's
heard
gonna-
all the excuses.
But
And
it-
you know what,
two-
they get certified mails, and they're still gonna tell you they didn't get it, or we got a card with their name on it. It's the route they have chosen. They create the monster when it comes to a tax sale. Not the board, not the finance director, not the chief. They're the ones that create the monster.
Chime in a little bit?
Like when the electric company shuts your electric off for not paying electricity. Who created the monster?
Is there any public comment on quarterly tax payments? Would anyone like to weigh in on that? No? Okay.
Commissioner Santoro, I just want to interject that,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, last year's budget and this year's budget, we've exceeded what we're budgeted. So even if everyone paid, we still didn't have enough money.
Yeah. No, I understand.
All right, so let's,
Yeah, no, I agree that there were, yes, I agree. I'll leave it at that.
and the overages in the budget were beyond the committee's control, but now we just have to deal with it.
Right.
I totally agree with that.
Well, good discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public input?
Oh, we have, what is the chief report?
No, next week. All right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.
Motion to adjourn by Commissioner Scullin, second. By Commissioner Jones. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 6-0. Meeting is adjourned.